everyone, and welcome to the 14th episode in the 2021 series of videos of the Painnt and Muse Crafts podcast. I am your host, Caroline, and as usual, I am coming to you from the western side of the island of Puerto Rico that is in the Caribbean, and that's where I basically make my life with my husband, and every couple of weeks come to share with you the crafty side of my life. And the crafty side of my life mostly includes crochet, I've got to be honest, but every once in a while I'll come back here with some needle felting or maybe even knitting project that I want to share with you. So today is the 18th of November, and I am totally filming out of the extraordinary at the totally wrong hour because in the room that I am in, I don't get very good lighting at this time of day. And on top of that, the lamp that I usually use to give myself extra lighting for podcasts must have blown a fuse because it won't turn on. So I've been trying to get this podcast done, planning for it, thinking about when I was going to get it done for over a week now. And I was really down to my last day and hour, because of the fact that I will be traveling to Florida for the Thanksgiving holiday. But we leave very early on Thursday morning, and so we arrive in Florida very early on Thursday morning. It's just a maybe 3.5 or 3 hour flight, so we'll be there early. But I wanted to get this film before I took that trip because I didn't know if we would be filming over there. I try and always travel light. I leave a lot of things at my daughter's house, so I don't have to travel very heavily. When I do travel, I can just hop on the plane with my purse and be there, and everything will be fine. That's kind of like what I would like to happen, but it doesn't always happen that way. And so thinking about all those things, I just want to travel lightly and not force the issue. It might be that we have a chance to film a podcast together, but usually if we do so, well, not usually, but a lot of times it goes up on her channel. We'll see what happens. But I did want to get this one out before I left, kind of trying to get back into that every 2 week routine, although I know I didn't do that very well. The last podcast that went up on the 29th or the 30th of October. And as of late, my podcasts have been doing very poorly in terms of YouTube views. It's actually very shameful on how the views have gone down. And I don't particularly know exactly why that happens. It's not like when you're a small channel, one of the things that happens is that you don't get a lot of information from Google and from YouTube that helps you to grow. So you kind of like have to figure out all those things by yourself. And because at the moment I am still not living financially off of the crafty side of my life, that is why I really haven't thought a lot about the issues of what's happening here. Although I do see it, I do notice how every podcast that goes out gets fewer and fewer views. But, I'm into blaming myself and imposter syndrome continuously, so I'm always blaming myself. It might be the things that I do and the way that I do them, or it might just be situational. You don't use the right tag words, you don't use the right introduction, or you don't have a catchy title. I don't know, something out there is not working for me. And so one of the things that they constantly tell you when you try to get a presence on YouTube is to try and be consistent, which necessarily would mean, let's say, every week on the same day, at the same time, or every 2 weeks the same day at the same time. and the length, so all be consistent in everything so that people kind of like know what to expect, and they can also plan, right? If I know that every Monday night from 7 to 8, I watch the Painnt and Muse podcast, that's what I do. Just like when you go and watch any other TV series that you watch. So maybe I guess that's one of my biggest issues, is that I am not that consistent. So here's me trying to be consistent. It's been more than 2 weeks since I've last spoken to you, and I am not talking to you on a Friday or Saturday or Sunday, which are the days when my podcast usually goes up. So here's for consistency. This is real, guys. This is real. I mean, I put it out there. You watch me if you want. You watch me when you want. You watch as much as the podcast as you want. What control do I have over any of that? Basically, nothing. So, moving on then with today's sharing. You might think that I will not have a walking the talk section, but I actually am going to have one, because I have here, I am wearing handmade earrings, even though they are not handmade by me, but I found them so pretty. Because I love the combination of the gradient of, I love gradients in yarn or whatever, and it just looks so pretty here, and then the pop of color in the middle, and I love that combination of kind of like orange with turquoise. So they were gifted to me by a company when I made a purchase. Recently, for all things that were going on with my Halloween episode, I made a purchase from Lima Beads, which is a company that sells beads. And on their Halloween celebrations, they had that you could pick several haunted houses and a gift would come up. And this was a gift that came up for me. And I was like, yay, I am so happy. Because I technically didn't have to make it. It was this coin, like let's say shaped, and then I simply put on the earring wire, and that was it. And I had a new pair of earrings, and they're shiny and they're gradients, and I just love them. And to go with it, then I have on a apricot colored blouse, and I'm also wearing this beaded necklace that I'm not going to take off, but I also made quite a while back, and these are Swarovski pearls and different gemstones of different colors and sizes. There's one that pops out in orange, and there are several shapes and sizes in turquoise. So I thought it went very well. And so most definitely, I was thinking about maybe wearing it down when I went to visit Florida so that I could share the look with my daughter, who I know will appreciate it very much. But I'm sharing it here on the channel for everybody. Now, I've got terrible lighting today. As I explained to you, there are shadows all over the place, and I actually don't know where to put myself so you get the least amount of shadows possible. So I'm just going to stay still. I'm just going to stay still and talk my heart out for half an hour, and then we'll say goodbye before it gets too late, because I actually do have a lot of work pending my trip to Florida. But I did want to share a couple of things with you that I am excited about. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say number one, I share with you something that isn't crochet or knit, and it is this invention of mine. It's a little booklet that I made for my grandson. And the little booklet is in Spanish, but it says, how will I call my grandmother? Because when I first had my grandson was in the tummy of his mommy, I began thinking about, geez, grandchildren. Now I really am getting old here, and what do I want my grandchild to call me? Because I've read a lot about the issue on internet. And so, I don't know, I figured ultimately I might leave it up to him. I might. It all depends on what he decides to call me in his baby talk. But, so I wrote my book about it. And in the book, I have the story from his point of view of how he decides what he's going to call his grandmother. And so, there are photos of both of us, but the photos were taken to an app that I downloaded for my iPhone that is called Painnt, Painnt. By the way, Painnt is one of my favorite Microsoft apps also. I love that program to death. But this one is Painnt. And what it does is it virtually takes a photo and it kind of like turns it into a sketch by adding different filters that you can choose from. And I thought that was, I kind of thought that made it look more like a child's storybook. So I made it and I sent it to the print shop so that they would print it out nicely on this cardstock. And so it's not got very many pages. It's probably got about 6 or 7 pages where, from the child's point of view, he says that a lot of people, and I actually looked that up on the internet, about only 30% of United States citizens or people that live in the United States know both names of their grandparents. And I thought that I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want my grandson to be in that group. So I told him my complete name in this writing. And so he says, a lot of people don't know their grandparents' names, but I know mine. And then he mentions my name. And so there's a picture of me when he mentions my name, or cartoony. And then he goes on to say, well, people choose different names for different reasons. And my grandmother looked up my name on the internet, and my name, his name is Lucas, is called the bringer of light. And so I thought that was very appropriate because I know that this baby is going to bring lots of light and lots of love and lots of laughter into our family. So I kind of wanted him to know that that was his name, so he would have something to live up to as he grows older. My husband didn't think these photos looked too good because he said it didn't make the baby look so well. But the thing about it was all these pictures, these photos I received through WhatsApp, and so they don't have the best resolution to do this kind of thing. But that's okay. And then I go and he says, what am I going to call my grandmother as she grows older? And I give him a list of, I don't know, maybe more than 20 different names that I found on the internet of how people call their grandmother. Do you remember how you called your grandmother? I never knew my grandmother, so I had no name for her. So after, or I never knew any of my grandparents. So after they passed, they have always been grandparents to me. But my mother had about 23, 24 grandchildren. She knew very few of them. She knew my children. She knew my sister's children who live here on the island. And she knew a couple of other children from my brothers who live in the United States. But there were many of them that she never knew. And so my nieces and nephews and my children just called her abuela, which is the Spanish word for grandmother. And my sister who passed away, her grandparents called her Mimi, and that's a name that I saw come up frequently. I believe my other sister who lives here on the island, they call her abuela also. They call her abuela also. But there were other names like Abu, Amo, Babsia, Babushka, Bagu, Beja, Biji, Sesha, Siaba, Coco, Dana, Essie, Fiti, Fifi, Gigi, Jima, Glama, Gramsi, Grancy, Guela, Ita, Lina, Lita, Mama, Mambu, Mima, Mimi, Nami, Nana, Nemo, Noni, Nona, Oma, Ota, Safta, Shishi, Sweetie, Tata, Tutu, Uma, Yaya. So I just wanted it to be a list of names in alphabetical order so that his mother could read them to him and they would make the baby laugh. I thought they would make the baby laugh, but I haven't raised kids in a while, so maybe it won't make the baby laugh. And then his last words to me were, it doesn't matter what I decide to call my grandmother. We will always treat each other with love and respect because I know that my grandmother has loved me since before the day that I was born. And so it's just a little story that I put together and sent to the printer, and I have just today sent it out to him. He's going to be 3 months old next week, and just today I am sending it out because I am crazy lazy about going to the post office. I don't know why, but it's one of the things that I am laziest to do. And I had the post office run today, and it was actually easy. I don't know why. Well, I'll tell you about that in a second. But anyway, there's one thing that I made all by my little self, and I am very happy to share it with my grandchild, and hopefully he will save it, or his mother will save it, and he'll be able to see it as he grows older. So speaking of my grandchild, my son, for my last podcast, gave me permission to share with you guys one of the photos that he has sent me of my grandchild. So I want to share that with you also. Something so you can see how he has progressed and where he's at right now. He is doing much better, still not out of the hospital, but progressing on a daily basis. And they need to watch out. They do need to watch out for some things, and they're keeping an eye on some symptoms that they are seeing and trying to catch anything early so that they can give him the best care. And I do believe he is receiving very good care, so hopefully it won't be until after January when he is finally relieved from the hospital, but we'll see what happens when I will actually get a chance to go and visit him. But his mother wrote to me recently and was showing me all of these hats, the turkey hats that they had for infants on internet. And well, I went along with the game and I looked up a couple of hats myself and sent the photos to her across on WhatsApp. And what do you think about this one? And how about this one? And she said, oh, if you could make me that one, I would be very happy. So like I say, I'm in a really, really bad rush because I have a lot of things to get done so that I don't have to take work with me on my Thanksgiving vacation. And I'm doing very poorly at it. I'm very far behind. But, I was sick and tired of what I was working on. I'd been at the computer day and night for several days, and I was just like, no. Okay, I'm going to entertain myself by making this hat. It was this hat that I found. It is a micro preemie hat pattern, and so you don't find a lot of them on the internet, but I did find this one. It's from Cream of the Crop Crochet. Cream of the Crop Crochet. That's the name of the blog. And the hat looks like this. I have shared it on Instagram, so if you also follow me on Instagram, I forgive me for oversharing, as they say. But I know that some of the viewers do not follow me on Instagram or do not even use Instagram, and so that's why sometimes we repeat. But anyway, that's the hat that I looked up, and I don't have it with me anymore because, like I said, this morning I did the post office run, and so I got that out along with some other packages that I needed to send. I got it out this morning. Unfortunately, the title of this podcast was inspired by the fact that this morning I got up very early. I was dressed and out of the door by 7 o'clock to run to the post office. They opened the lobby at 7, but the window is not open until 8, but that was okay because I didn't have the envelopes to put my packages in, and so I figured that while I was waiting, I would pack them. But they didn't have any envelopes in the lobby. So it was like sit in the lobby for 20 minutes to wait until they opened. I did make up my grandson's package during that time, or go out front, cross the street to the supermarket that was out front and see if they had any manila envelopes there that I could package the rest of my items in, and at the same time pick up some groceries that I needed. Well, I guess it's a good thing that I did that, because when I got to the cashier with the groceries that I had selected, I found that I had left the house with my purse, but not with my wallet. And I had no money to pay for my groceries, nor to pay for the postage of the items that I wanted to send out. So, in Spanish, we have a saying, no por mucho madrugar, se amanece más temprano. And the best translation, or the translation that I like the best, it sounded very, sounded like a words of wisdom to me. It's something like, early risers cannot make the sun rise earlier. The idea is that it doesn't matter how early you try to plan your day and how you step by step want to plan your whole day. Something can always happen that will change that plan. So just take it easy is the idea. Just take it easy. So yes, but anyway, it has been sent out. But I will share with you a couple of photos that I managed to take in the car before I put it in the box, so that you can at least see what the final product looks like a little bit better than, maybe a little bit better even than if I actually had it here, because the photos are pretty close up. And the idea is also, I wanted you to see if I could get you to see how small it was, because since he is a micro preemie, his head is really small, and so the pattern had different sizes of micro preemies. It actually had for when they are between 1 and 3 pounds, and I went up to the 3 and 5 pounds and between 11 and 11.5 inches of circumference. So I'm hoping when that reaches, that will fit, and that he'll be able to pose with it for a couple of photos that they will send to me for Thanksgiving. Okay, I had to take a break there because there was just this car going by with an announcement on a speaker, and I don't know. There's a lot of things going against me doing this today, but I am going to get it done. So, what have I been working on in terms of, I don't think that I have any finished projects. At least I can't remember any. Apart from the little booklet that I sold you that was way overdue to share with you guys, I haven't finished anything. So sorry about that. But I have been working on new things. We're getting very close to Christmas. I do gift for Christmas. I don't gift everybody handmade, but there are several people who I believe are particularly crochet worthy or knit worthy, and so I do. For example, you remember these socks that are hanging still here, so I don't forget to send them, that I shared with you a couple of podcasts back. They will go to my older daughter's live-in partner because he likes crocheted socks. And I am working on 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of knit socks that I am also going to send my son and his wife. And so let me share that with you. Totally frustrated with them because I don't know. I get frustrated very easily. So I'll show you the one that I've worked the most on, which is this one. This is the sock for my son. Hey. I do all my socks magic loops. These are 64 stitches. And to make life simple, so I don't have to worry about patterns and whatever, I love self-patterning yarn. This was a yarn gifted to me by Crafternoon Treats. It is from Style Craft, and it is their boho head over heels range. And the shade is Danube. And so I do believe that right now you are seeing the complete sequence of the pattern, right? It's got that grayish section there, and then a slight blue, some solid gray, some tonal turquoisey blue or sky blue there, maybe a dark sky blue, another line of gray, another bit of small little bit of blue, some more gray and white, and then a darker blue with gray. It does have some gray in it. It's just not easy to see because I have very poor lighting here. But I really do enjoy a good self-patterning yarn because I enjoy it more than the self-striping because it gets pretty so easily. Makes any sock pretty. So this is all I've done, and unfortunately, I have done up to here days ago. And it's been days since I worked on it because I did my toe a little bit differently. I usually start at the toe and maybe 8 or 10 stitches and then pick up, make one left and make one right every other round. Okay, I had to take another break there because once again, in this occasion, it was a funeral home announcing a wake and a burial service. So, yeah, that happens here. It probably doesn't happen where you live, but that happens here. You're allowed to announce that type of activity on the loudspeaker, running up and down the streets. So anyway, self-patterning is the best, and I would say that I've really slowed down terribly on it because of the fact that, as I said, I started doing my toe differently from the make one left, make one right. For this set, I was doing a yarn over. When you want to add a stitch, that round, you do yarn overs. And on the next round, where you're not going to add any stitches, you do just knit around, but when you reach those yarn overs, you work them through the back loop. And I thought that worked out pretty well. At the beginning, it looks like there'll be holes, but there aren't. So when I got to the gusset, and I started picking up stitches, make one left, make one right to do my gusset, then I started getting holes. So I ripped back, and I didn't do a very good job of it, because look at all the stitches that I dropped. And that's because it's a very dark blue yarn, so I'm going to have to pull back a couple more rows and do it with some very good lighting. So I totally gave up on that for now until I get some great lighting where I can actually look at that and see what I am picking up. How unfortunate, because I should have had that sock done by now. I mean, I would have if I had continued at the pace that I was going. But anyway, those are 64 stitches, and I believe his foot measures about 10. He's a size 10, 10 and a half in shoes, so it'll be a little longer than the foot that I usually make it. But I have no idea if it's going to be too long. So then I started making a pair of socks for his wife, and I chose this from my stash because it's self-striping. It's Regia. So that's what it's supposed to look like. And so I'm only at the very beginning because I have two 2.25 Xiagu knitting needles that I decided, oh, well, then I'm going to start them both. Instead of doing sometimes I just start both socks. And then I do 10 rounds on one, 10 rounds on the other, 10 rounds on one, 10 rounds on the other, and totally avoid second sock syndrome. But this time I decided to just, do this. And so I have the beginning of a sock, and that's about it. Nothing else. She wears a size 5, a lady size 5. So I looked that up on the internet, and it told me that normally people that wear a size 5, their feet measure, what do they measure? 8 inches, 7.5. And so I'm working with 48 stitches around the circumference of their foot. The circumference of their foot is 7.5 inches. And so I'm working with 48. Now I am a very tight knitter as of late, so I don't even know if that's going to fit her. We'll see. We will see. Shame to go through all that trouble, but, well, whatever. I actually prefer to make them a little bit bigger. I don't know. So there, that's what I've been working on. Those are Christmas gifts. Those are the only Xmas gifts that I'm working on, because you remember that I had already purchased a yarn so that I could make a sweater for my daughter. But then a conversation that we had after that made me doubt if I should go through the trouble of making it. She's very large, very doted at the top. And so it was a big garment, and I didn't want to go through all that trouble and not have it be used. That happened a couple of years back. So I decided to use the yarn for something else. I have been seeing on internet, I go to Pinterest, like sometimes late at night when I'm having trouble sleeping, I'll go into Pinterest and then just look through it and look through it and look through it and ultimately fall asleep and then just go to sleep. And so I wanted to make, let me show you what I wanted to make first and then show you how I'm making it. I wanted to make a Snoopy sweater. My goodness. I would love to have that. Not to make it, to have it, because to make it sounds like, seems to me like it would be a lot of work. Anyway, there weren't many crochet sweater patterns that had the Snoopy on it. And so I did find, for example, this one. I guess I could visit this one. I'll just show it. Because the person that published this on Pinterest had published a free crochet chart on her blog. A free crochet Snoopy chart on her blog. But the chart was just a chart, so you have to count your stitches and count your columns and count. And I'm never very good at that. So I said, no, I want the instructions, the written out instructions. And you guys know that I've told you in the past that the best program to do that is Stitch Fiddle. The program Stitch Fiddle, because you can incorporate a photo or a drawing that you make yourself. And then once you have it all set up the way you want it, you can ask the program to give you the written instructions. I do believe that that is an option only if you pay, because it has a free version where it'll let you do some things. You can have the chart and download the chart. But if you want the written instructions, you pay for the pattern. It's not a lot. It's like $20 a year. And so I don't find that a lot, and I do pay for it. So I was able to find a clip art on internet, bring it into the Stitch Fiddle, and I had to retouch it a lot, because if the photo has a very high resolution, then Stitch Fiddle is going to try and use a lot of colors to recreate it, and that would make knitting or crocheting it very difficult, number one. But also number two, it gets very pixelated. The less colors that you want to have, the more pixelated the image gets, and so you have to retouch it. And so I did that. I brought Snoopy into Stitch Fiddle and I retouched it, and then I came up with this chart. Right? And I had that chart. I wasn't too happy with Woodstock, but I figured that if you knew Snoopy, you would know that that is Woodstock. So, but what happened was that once I got the numbers for my sweater decided upon, this Snoopy, he wasn't actually too big. I could actually still do it, but it would take up the whole front of the sweater from top to bottom. It wouldn't be like a smaller Snoopy like in the middle. It would be all the way like from the neck all the way down. And so still don't know if I want that. So what I did was I also made a second one because I like to have always options. I made a second one of just Snoopy alone, and the Snoopy alone was a bit smaller. And so although it still takes up a pretty big amount of the front, it won't go all the way down to the ribbing or all the way up to the neckline. So I'll have to give that a think and decide how I want my Snoopy to be. So since that's the front, I started with the back. If you remember the yarn that I mentioned that I had bought for a different purpose and now I'm going to use it for this, was the Shippies, or whatever the name is, stone washed. It is 78% cotton and 22% acrylic sport weight. And I decided that I was going to make my sweater similar to, and now I'm going to go, where am I going to go? Yeah. Similar to a pattern that I had purchased. I figured, well, I purchased the pattern, so I can have a look at the pattern. What do you think? Let's have a look here. I can have a look at the pattern and substitute the monarch butterfly with the Snoopy. Now, the monarch butterfly is a lot shorter. My Snoopy would reach all the way down here. Basically, very similar in the width, but, you know, from top to bottom, mine is going to go down a lot more. But basically, I thought everything else could be the same except for the pattern that I put on the front. So instead of the monarch, which is on my list of things to do, I know that. But in this case, instead of the monarch, I am going to put Snoopy. So I finished the back. That's where I'm at. I got the back crocheted up. Nothing complicated. Just single crochet and crochet ribbing at the bottom. And so I have made this with 74 rows of single crochet. It basically reaches just above my crotch area maybe, so on the back it won't cover my butt either. I could make it longer, I guess. I do have tons of this yarn, but I don't know. Do I want it that long or do I want it longer? You tell me. A sweater like this, I think, would look well longer. But then I was afraid of running out of yarn. But since the front is not going to be this yarn, the front is going to be the Snoopy, basically. That's what it's going to be. Then I think there's no reason to worry about running out of this yarn. So maybe I'll make it longer. I'll just keep going. Make it tons longer and make it so it does cover my buttocks. For the time being, it's 23 inches. But I guess I could make it longer if I wanted to. It has 6 balls, and they're each 50 grams, so it's 300 grams of yarn. So this has in it 300 grams of yarn. If I look at the meterage, this is the color Garnet, and 50 grams has got 130 meters. So I believe that for the Monarch sweater, she was using, let me see, Lion Brand jeans, which is worsted. So, Sorry. For the Monarch sweater, she was using Lion Brand jeans, which is worsted. And so this was sport weight, so I'm using it double. I'm using it double. And in order to get her gauge, I had to use an 8mm hook. An 8mm hook. That's what I'm using. And the only 8mm hook that I had was this one. So this is resin. It's a clover hook. It's a clover hook. So, and that's the only one that I had. I didn't have a metal one. Only had this resin one in my stash. So that's what I'm using. So I was very shocked about how it didn't grow quickly. I thought it would grow quickly, but it didn't. Single crochet doesn't grow quickly. It doesn't matter what stitch you use. But I don't know. Maybe it does. It's just that maybe I crochet too tightly, and that way I couldn't get it to crochet. I couldn't get it to grow faster. So maybe I'll make it longer. I'm not sure. I think maybe another inch or two, because I do have tons of yarn. Maybe I'll just finish up this, what I have here. Give me about 2 more rows. And so because the placement of the Snoopy depends on how many rows you have on the back. That's why you start at the back. Because once I have the back, then I'll find out, okay, how many rows did I have? And then I'll take those rows, I'll subtract the number of rows that I know my Snoopy image is going to have, and I'll divide that by 2 so that I'll know how many, when I make the front, this goes bottom up. So I'll know how many rows to leave at the bottom before I start my color work, and how many rows I'll have at the top when I finish my color work. And I'll also know from side to side. I made mine 68 inches, and I'm not giving anything away from the pattern because she doesn't tell you how many stitches to use. She just tells you to go by your body size. So my body size, I used 68 stitches across. And if Snoopy is 44, well, I'll subtract 44 from 68, divide by 2, and then I'll know how many stitches, stitches of my front are going to be in the stone-washed Shepya's yarn. And so that he'll be centralized. He'll be in the middle of my front and back, because it's basically front and back, and I believe basically front and back. I do want to add a collar to mine. And I'm still thinking about whether the sleeves will be long or just 3/4. And so that's where I'm at with that. A kind of like treating myself to one of my favorite cartoon characters this holiday season. And I don't know. It took me a couple of days to do the back, so I'm hoping that maybe I'll get it done soon. Soon. Okay, so I do believe that, the thing only I have left to show you is what yarn I'll be using for Snoopy, because Stonewash wasn't going to make it happen. It had to be something that was totally a solid color. She used jeans, she says, but I couldn't find Lion Brand's jeans yarn in the colors that I needed, so I purchased Feels Like Butter. This is 100% polyester, but it is worsted. It might actually be slightly thinner than the yarn I'm using, I'm thinking. We'll figure out that when we get there, because this is number 4. And so I've got it in the blue because the outline around Snoopy is blue. And of course I've got white for the Snoopy himself. And I've got black for Snoopy's outline. And then, instead of yellow, Lion Brand went and sent me this. So I got no yellow. I'm hoping that when I go then with Clarissa Beth, I'll be able to find some of this Feels Like Butter in yellow, and because I wanted to use the same yarn for the whole Snoopy. But who does that? And the thing was that it has the wrong, I mean, they don't even read these things because it says yellow and it's just not yellow. So if you would have read it, you would have figured something is wrong here. But I guess sometimes the workers are just in such a hurry that they just do things automatically and really don't read. So that will have to be used for something else. I'm not going back to the post office to return that, so I'll just keep it. And that's what I wanted to share with you today. Some of the things that I've been up to, a little bit about what I'm going to be doing lately. So that's about it for today. I was going to make this a quick one, and I realized that I haven't. But anyway, I am off to do some work that I need to get done in order to have a good trip to Florida. And I know you will be wishing me a safe trip and a safe vacation. And so I also want to wish you the same. If you celebrate Thanksgiving by actually giving thanks and reuniting with your family and loved ones, then I wish you a very happy holiday. If you don't celebrate it, then anyway, I do wish you a very happy couple of weeks until we are able to meet up again. And in the meantime, keep yourself safe, keep yourself happy, and keep yourself thankful. And see you soon.